Alright, welcome to episode 92 of What If Civilization Started Over. This is going to be a very, very special episode. I'm very excited to record it. I've been planning this one for a really long time, so it should be a pretty fun episode, and I guess we should get started. I always forget, I also have the nuclear bombs dropped layer, and that's because I think definitely by now, potentially a lot earlier, the Russians will have got rid of the radiation here. I mean, I don't really know how you get rid of radiation, but its effects aren't really going to be affecting the people of the Aral Republic anymore, so that's gone, and that's nice. I also here because yeah, it's Imperium. Whoa. Anyway, don't remember that. It looks really cool though. Yeah, that one also looks cool. This is if the colonial powers won World War II. It's not really a great thing for the world. Anyway, power rankings. Yes. They haven't moved at all because, of course, they haven't. That's not really what they do in this series very much. But it is 1991 at the end of this episode, which is when the Cold War ended in real life. So I wonder what's going to happen at the end of this episode. I don't know. I'm not sure. Why would I know? I'm excited as you are. Anyway, hopefully that's pretty excited. Let's go to a war, shall we? Because the Arabic Union is going to be potentially doing the last expansions they can really do, and that is invading the nation of Bulgaria. So Bulgaria has done absolutely nothing since they got their independence and unification amidst World War II, and yeah, unfortunately the Arabic Union's here to crush them again. So they take over this major city down here in the south, they could defend this one, take over this one, and then push around near to the capital city, surrounding it, and taking two cities close to it. In the north, however, a very quickly, rapidly alerted or prepared Romanian country who recently allied with the Germans and the Chinese and everyone else in the allies. They will also invade, pushing towards a few major cities in the north, taking 2 or 3, and defending one of their own, whilst pushing towards this one over here and this one right there. The Arabic Union starts to realize that maybe they really should speed up taking land and protecting stuff in this war. So they start to do more offensives into the center, and Bulgaria just loses all of their cities and their valuable territory really quickly in this war, as both these countries just absolutely crush the Bulgarians. So, as everything very quickly is said and done, we see the Bulgarian partition look something like this, and now we're going to head to a peace treaty where it's divided up. Alright, so the partition looks something like this, with the Arabic Union taking over the south and the Romanians taking over the north, obviously. They weren't going to do it the other way around. And that's basically it. So the Arabic Union is now even stronger, and we have a completely invisible border here, so that's great. You can't really see what's going on. And also, the Romanians have a huge coast now, which is pretty cool. Do they have most of the Romanian coast, like real life Romania? They actually do. That's only a bit of southern Dobruja is missing. That's cool. Anyway, I mean, it's not even a Romanian country. It's like western Ukraine. But who cares? Let's go over to another area of the world, and today it's going to be the Far East that is subject to Russian expansion, as Russian tanks and soldiers appear in this country, which has about 10 people. There's a city apparently right up here. The Russians are going to take that and then move in the south. There are basically no defenses. They also take over this lake because that's probably pretty important. And they slam the forces over here towards the Sea of Okhotsk. I don't know, they put some boats and things like that on ships. No, on cars, lorries, and then they transport them to the Sea of Okhotsk and they put them in the sea. And they're like, hey guys, let's navy invade. And they take over the southern part of the Kamchatka Peninsula. So that's done. They take over some more islands and they landed some more places where people live, and the nation is just going to capitulate after that and surrender, and the Russians gain access to the Pacific Ocean. Finally, they could have done this ages ago. They just decided not to, which was silly. I don't know why I can't slide to the left, but the Russians would fully annex all this land. Obviously, you're not just going to leave it. That'd be silly. And also take over all the stuff around here. Along with that, they're going to take over the capital city. Obviously, they're not just going to leave it as a city-state. A lot of obvious things here that you don't need to be picking up on. Yeah, come on, man. But yeah, Russia is now absolutely huge, so is the Arabic Union. I mean, Russia's potentially going to be one of the biggest countries that we'll ever have in this series. I mean, almost definitely. But it looks very cool. And now we need to head just slightly south over to the Emir nation. What's your ideology? Oh, your dictatorship. Great. Anyway, don't worry, the world's going to be getting rid of this dictatorship, because the Koreans are invading into the Emir nation. They finished with Japan, and now they're invading into a country which is potentially weaker than a majority of the Japanese countries. So that was clever. Also, you don't have a capital. I think I said I was going to move it, and then I never did. But they're going to move their capital, obviously, to the south. I think that's what I was planning to do. Well, I know I was planning to move it to the south. I just never did, apparently. So that's clever of me. Yes, capital to the south. Let's put it right over here. Now, that's not a good place to have your capital when you're at war with Korea, but it doesn't really matter because you're destined to lose anyway. The Koreans are almost definitely, actually most definitely, a top 10 power at this point. They've been building themselves up following their defeat to China at the end of World War One, and they move in, taking the capital of this country and going around this lake. This country has a surprisingly large amount of cities, and that's definitely realistic, don't worry. But the Koreans continue to move up the coast. They also navally invade the island of Sakhalin, which is where the old capital used to be close to. It's over here. Because the country started off really, really far north, but the island of Sakhalin will fall. The Russians luckily aren't invading because they would take over a lot of this, but the eastern coast, all the cities on the eastern coast, have now fallen to the Koreans, and that's a shame for these guys. The Koreans are going to start to send their military into the center, pushing out towards various major cities in this region, so bye-bye to those. And then the Koreans navally invade here in the north, taking one major city that really probably shouldn't exist. At this point, the nation is basically just collapsing. They lose both of these major cities they're spearheading towards, and they spearhead towards this one here in the center, taking over that. The Chinese are then going to get involved because, of course, they do. They don't really like the Koreans. That's just a type of thing for the Chinese, I guess. Don't like Indochina, don't like Korea. But yeah, they move in, taking 4 major cities, and they really quickly start to spearhead through. It's kind of making the world worried that China's going to use its nukes, but it doesn't, which is pretty nice of them. Good job, China, trying to keep people alive whilst invading, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, Korea does all this stuff, and then at the end, the Koreans take over this coastal area, and then eventually them and the Chinese unwillingly will partition the nation between them in a peace treaty, which I'm going to do now. Alright, so they divide up this territory. The Koreans gain the vast majority of it, so China gains this inner territory right here, and the Koreans gain everything else, which is not that wealthy, really. It's not great stuff, but they take it nonetheless, is what they wanted. So the gold country ceases to exist, and the Koreans become a lot larger territorially. Economically, not really, but oh well, you can retreat to the Amur River area. Anyway, there's not a whole load more things left to do, but we do need to move down south to one of the newest countries to join in the Cold War, which is the nation of Borneo. Borneo, what do you do for the world? I don't know. You invade places, that's what. The Arabic Union basically encouraged these guys to invade the Green Country north of them. This is kind of racist, because the Green Country is an ex-Chinese colony, and they're worried this country would join in with other Chinese allies like Sulawesi, and potentially even the Papua New Guinea country, the brown one, if they were to join a potential World War III. So they're like, hey, you want to expand your country, don't you? And you don't like the Green Country. How about you invade them for me, and I'll give you stuff. So the Borneo country does that, and it goes pretty well. They manage to separate a whole middle area off. They have this cool straight line right down here in the middle, and they push up towards the capital city down here in the northeast. Up here in the northeast. They take a major city on the eastern coast, and eventually they take the capital city, so that's gone. Oh well. And the countries after that just got to pretty much collapse. Goodbye, Borneo. Bye-bye. And South Borneo, well, following this war, reunite the entirety of Borneo, which I don't think has ever been done in this series. That's cool, I guess. Not really. It's not that special. But I think it was divided between the southern Indians and the Bengalis, and then the Chinese took over some, the Dutch took over some, and then we've got this now. So it's fully united, and Borneo looks really, really dark, but it's kind of fun. Anyway, the Arabic Union is going to add one more ally. This might be the last country to join any alliance before the start of World War III, if it happens. I don't know why I keep saying that. Like, it's going to happen. I'm not going to stop lying to you. But it's a pretty major country, and it's over here in the Green Country, down here in Tanzania. So they don't really border anyone useful. They're just kind of chilling in this region. But they are an extremely powerful country in their potential in the future. They have a massive population. Religiously, it's pretty diverse, but that's cool. Let's actually have a look at that, because I haven't really thought about that. Religion, though, we can see in the north there's some major Carthaginian areas. There's a few Mesopotamian bits over here, but a majority of the country is Indian. There's a bit of European around in the west, but a majority Indian. There should be more European areas due to German colonization, but oh well. Hindsight is an old thing. So yeah, they joined the Arabic Union's alliance. Not sure what they're really going to do, but there's probably some reason that I've put them in there. I don't know. Anyway, what else do we have left to do, you may ask, and I also ask this. But don't worry, I remembered one thing, so that's fun. I think there's actually just one more thing left to do, and then we get to the really, really fun stuff. This episode's only 10 minutes long. It's actually kind of long. Anyway, the war here is going to be a very short one because we need to go over to northern India, or the Ganjatic country, because they are invading the nation of Bihar. Bihar, it's a very poor country, real life and in this series, and they lose their capital within like the first few weeks, including the entire western area of their country. They invade in across the south, and the nation ceases to exist really by Bihar. That's Yukon. And northern India looks a lot more rectangular, so that might be a good thing. Anyway, let's get on with some really cool stuff, and what we need to do is head over to Europe. Alright, so, we're here in Western Europe, and something really, really weird has just happened, and it's involving both France and Britain, as both of these countries unite to form one country known as the Franco-Union. Basically, nobody in the world knew this was an event that would be occurring, and it was completely unexpected. The Russians, the Chinese, they didn't have any intelligence on this, but some countries did. And by some countries, I mean, of course, the leaders of France and Britain, and also the leader of the Arabic Union. They knew that this alliance and union was about to come about, and it's going to have some really major effects on the world, because the Franco-Union stays within the Circle Economic Alliance, but following an investigation into the creation of the Franco-Union, people start to discover things like the British have been secretly working with the Arabic Union for a long time here. The British gave the Arabic Union the technology and the information they needed to construct their first nuclear bombs, which is why it was a lot easier and a lot quicker for the Arabic Union to make them than it was for other countries like Russia and Germany. Following this, they became good allies with them, and they worked with countries like Norway and France. They pretended to be neutral and very secret, but secretly, they were pretty secret. They've been working with the Arabic Union and secretly aligning with them. There were always plans in a potential world war to join the side of the Arabic Union and to defend them against other nations, and it's now coming to fruition as they believe that World War III is quickly approaching the world, and it's time for their union to come into place. This is now a country with a lot of nuclear bombs, 33 in total, and they're still keeping all 11 from the Arabic Union, which is why France didn't get as many as Norway in the last episode in previous times. So yeah, I don't think you were expecting that, and it's definitely going to cause some uproar in the world, but there's not really anything that the enemies of the Franco-Union can now do. But this country is going to become quite a lot stronger. France is a top 10 nation, and so is Britain. But in the next episode, I guess there'll be more important than power rankings, but it moves the British and the Franco-Union now above, or at least on par with Carthage, because this country has a lot of economic power. Anyway, it's time for some nuclear bombs, because I like to do that every episode. So let's see what that looks like. Alright, so I've already updated all the Russian numbers for their allies, because most of the nukes the Russians are going to produce here, which puts them up to 160 and 78, go to their allies, because they made like 17 nukes, and I think they've given 18 to their allies, and that's because at this point in the Cold War, countries are realizing that their allies having nukes is in a way more strategic than them having nukes, because it spreads them around a bit, and they have allies all over the world, so that's pretty cool. 4 nuclear bombs went to Ireland, 2 to the Italians, 3 to the Spanish, 3 to the Texans, 3 to Java, who didn't have any before that, and then 1 to Western Australia, Pakistan, and the Mongolian country. So now I'm going to do the Arabic Union. Oh yeah, Ireland got the most, pretty obviously, because there's a pretty scary country now on their borders. Whilst I'm here just doing the French, I might as well do the British as well, because technically they're still 2 separate industries, kind of. So the British, apparently the British are doing absolutely nothing. What's going on now? The British will produce 25 nuclear bombs, that's maybe 26. Let's be nice. And the French will get another 3 from the Arabic Union, putting them on to 14, which means that they now have a total 40 nuclear bombs, which is rather a lot, I would say. Puts them on par with the Germans, counting the German bombs outside of their territory, so that's cool. Anyway, I'll do the rest of their allies now. As the Arabic Union goes up from 140, there's too many numbers in my head. They go all the way up to, basically, 150. That's 155. and then 73 nuclear bombs outside of their territory, which is pretty interesting because 155 minus 73 takes you to 82, but then 160 minus 78 also takes you to 82. So the Russians are actually just winning, really. They have more nukes. But yeah, 3 nuclear bombs to the French, 3 to the Norwegians, 4 to Tanzania, weirdly enough, 2 to the Salmon country in Central Asia, 2 to New South Wales in Australia, 2 to Borneo, 1 to South Sudan, and now we need to do the Germans, the Carthaginians, and China. Oh my god, East Asia looks so weird with barely any countries in it. I think I could just do the Carthaginians like right now. So Carthage is going to go up all the way from 35 to 43, so good for them. And then the Germans, they only really give their nukes to 2 different countries, but they're going to go up from 52 up to a straight. Oh wait, no, 12. Okay, I was just checking. They go all the way up from 52 to good old number 60. They had 12 nuclear bombs outside of their territory. I think they maybe want to give 2 to these guys, and then do they want to give any to the Wisconsin country? 1. Alright. So you give 3 more nuclear bombs, so they have another 15 outside their territory. I don't really think about this before I did this, which was kind of silly. Anyway, the Romanians over here, they're going to go up from 5 and 6 all the way to 5 and 8, so that's that. Good for them. Hooray. And then the Carthaginians. Okay, Wisconsin country, they go all the way up to 7. Cool. And now we just need to do China, so let's go and do them. They're pretty scary looking country. Alright, so China goes from 139 and 48 all the way up to 152. Okay, I can't type. 152 and 64 nuclear bombs outside their territory. So they are weaker than the other great powers or superpowers in this world. But yeah, I keep calling them weaker, but they're still like stronger than a huge majority of the countries in the world. I also haven't done the Chinese nukes, so I'm going to do that now, for like the allies, I mean. Alright, so, yeah, there's all the nuclear bombs in the world. They gave 1 to the Romanians, 2 to Central Asia, 2 to Kashmir, 3 to Tibet, 3 to the Ganjiatic country, 3 to Sulawesi, and then 2 to the Northern Australians. So, yeah, the world is pretty crazy at this point. We have these 3 guys over here in North America. They all have 7 nuclear bombs, because that's kind of how this nuclear war is working. In Europe, we have countries all over the nuclear bombs. I think the lowest here is Ireland with only 10. But the highest people like Norway with 17. Germany's got 45. Russia's got like 82, but not worry about them. The Franco-Union's got 40. I mean, even the Romanians have 14 nuclear bombs. Over to Africa, there's a few random countries with nukes. Like the Carthaginians have 43. South Sudan has 4. And Tanzania also has 4. The Arabic Union also has a lot of nuclear bombs stationed in this territory. Over to Central Asia, it was pretty even, but the Chinese influence in this area has led them to have absolute dominance over this territory, with 10 in Central Asia and Kashmir and Tibet. But there's other rivals like Pakistan and the Mongolian country, and then also randomly India. China looks really weird and huge. The Koreans are just worried, I suppose. And then down to Southeast Asia, we have most of these guys with a similar sort of nuke count, but the most are the Northern Australians, since they're kind of close to China. And then New South Wales is 5, and Western Australia's got 4. The Russians and the Arabic Union only added their Southeast Asian allies very recently, so Sulawesi has a lot more, even more than both of these 2 countries combined. Doesn't mean they'll win though, it's going to be an interesting war. And South America's doing absolutely nothing, because that's what South America does best. So why don't we get this nuclear war started? Because the Arabic Union, they had some more nukes they were going to give out. They wanted to equalize with Russia, you see. So the Russians, they have 5 more nukes than the Arabic Union, and the Arabic Union realized just what was going on here in Central Asia. They just kind of finally realized it's probably an important bit to control. So they were planning to deliver their final 5 nuclear bombs over to the nation of the Salmon country in Uzbekistan, I think. However, that failed. They were intercepted by the Central Asian country, and they landed kind of close to here. They were flying them into the country because they don't really have any land borders, and they managed to get access across this airspace, but they had to fly very directly across this border, so they don't go too far into any country, so nothing like special can happen in there. And unfortunately, they dropped 4 nuclear bombs. 4 nuclear bombs? Well, they dropped some of their nuclear bombs into this territory, with one hitting over here in Central Asia, another one hitting around here, one hitting into Pakistan, and another one into the Salmon country. The final nuclear bomb managed to make it to the capital of the Salmon country, so just go and quickly update that. However, that was pretty severe. Nations of all three different alliances just got hit by nuclear bombs, and now the Salmon country has even more, and Russia is going to be outraged at this. Did anything important get hit? No, no it didn't, but it's fine. But Russia is extremely outraged at this. It's definitely impacting Pakistan, which is a country they really care about for holding Southern Asia and trying to win in that region. So they're going to have a huge shout at the Arabic Union and be like, yo, this is actually a whole inside thing. And China is going to send some spies into the Arabic Union. And it turns out there may have been plans to actually use those bombs to just try and weaken other countries and maybe try and drop them on major cities. However, the people who were flying the planes got way too nervous and the entire thing failed. They still managed to drop nukes, but unfortunately they dropped some in their territory and into the Central Asian country and also into Pakistan, which they also intended to. But they wanted to hit more cities, which is pretty mean. But they just kind of thought they figured out a way to bypass all this stuff, which they really hadn't. So that sucks for them. But the Chinese are going to expose this to the rest of the world, and it's definitely not something they like. So the Chinese are going to try to send their own nukes into Central Asia and try and station them so they can maybe plan some offensive thing against the Arabic Union. And this it goes badly. Basically, Russians, they have more ships down here in Pakistan now because they know, like, oh well, this is all going pretty badly. So as the Chinese try to move some new nukes they've just constructed into the Central Asian country, they shoot them down, and unfortunately it falls right here near the border of the Salmon country, exploding another nuclear bomb into this nation. Pakistan actually got hit the least, and the Salmon country is completely outraged because it probably killed quite a few people. It didn't really get close to anything important, but it could have done if it hit down in the south. So the idea was definitely there. The Arabic Union realizes that China's trying to use their strategy to just kill people in a horrible way, and the Russians are realizing that both of these countries were planning to drop nukes on them. Tension is going to rise across the border, and nuclear bombs will move closer. They don't have to use planes anymore, and they can launch them from a long distance. All countries within entirely really the world, but also these major alliances start to fully mobilize their military, and the border between all countries become incredibly tense. And it's at that point that the Russians are going to begin their invasion of the Ukrainian and Crimean areas of the Arabic Union, officially starting World War III. As Russian troops also begin to invade into areas like Tibet and China. I'm not representing this on the map because I want to keep the map unblemished. But World War III has begun. The Russians realize that they need to start the offensive so they can't be caught off guard once again. And something needs to be done to stop the other countries of the world defeating their alliance and making sure that they can't win World War III. So yeah, there's the end of the Cold War in 1991. The Russians have started their invasion, but things could really go badly for the Russians here in 1991, just like they did in our real life. Or it could go badly for somebody else, like the Chinese, or the Arabic Union, or literally anybody else in this alliance. I'm super excited to record the next few episodes, and I hope you're excited to watch them, because that's kind of the point. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time. Have a nice rest of your day, and goodbye.